You do not need a homeschool room, $1,000 box curriculum, or even a laminator to homeschool well. Let's talk about it. So if you are new here, hi, my name is Brittany. I am a homeschool mom to 4 kids, high school down to kindergarten. I have been homeschooling for almost a decade now, and on my channel, I like to talk everything homeschool and homemaking. So today I am de-influencing you on 9 things that you may think that you need or have to have in place in order to homeschool well. Homeschooling is already overwhelming, and then we hop onto Instagram and we see all of the nature studies and we see all of the perfect homeschool rooms and the curated homeschool schedules and the posters and the bins and all of the stuff. But here's the truth. You can homeschool very well with much less than you're seeing on Instagram. So the first thing that I want to assure you that you don't need is a full boxed curriculum. So especially if you are a new homeschool mom, you really don't know what it is that you like. You think you kind of have an idea, but any homeschool mom who has been doing it for more than, honestly, even just a year will tell you that first year is really about trying to figure out what you like, what your philosophy is on education, how to homeschool your kids, kind of melding the personalities, getting used to being together all the time. If you pulled from school, or if you pulled them from a public school setting, or getting started on school if you have not been schooling at that point and you're starting like kindergarten. So that is a lot of what that first year is about. So if going out and spending $1,000 on curriculum for one student is just a little crazy because we don't know what we like. So the better thing is to try a couple of different things on what you think you might enjoy and just test the waters that first year. Number 2 is an IKEA style or even like a Charlotte Mason cottage style homeschool room. You know, you see them all over the place. They are just beautiful and they have all of the posters and they have the perfectly lined up bookshelves and they have the little tables with all of the baskets and everything, and it's beautiful and you want to school in that room. And if you can afford to do that, that's great. But you don't need it. You don't even need a homeschool room at all. I have never had a homeschool room. We've been homeschooling for almost 10 years, and I have never had a homeschool room. We homeschool right here or right there. That is literally where we homeschool, is in our living room. And while it seems like it may be amazing to have this space that is designated for homeschool, I have found that I don't even want a homeschool room. And most of the moms that I know who have had dedicated homeschool rooms end up homeschooling a lot of the time on their living room floor, couch, kitchen table, where they're close to all of the things, especially when you have toddlers and babies. You want to be where you can set the baby up in a high chair to give them a snack, or they can play on the floor, or, you know, you're by the kitchen so you can get snacks. A lot of times you end up wanting to be in the main hub of the home so that it feels very kind of integrated into your life, and it's easy to move from one thing to another, to pull back into school and then go to lunch, and just, it feels a little bit more natural. And most of the decor stuff is actually completely unnecessary, and a lot of it's really expensive. And so it's better to spend that in other places, like get a zoo pass that you're actually going to use, that you could use for their education, or get more books because you can never have too many books. Number 3 is you aren't a bad homeschool mom if you don't have 12 read alouds going on at a time and you choose not to do a bunch of nature studies all the time. So this is especially whenever you identify yourself as a Charlotte Mason homeschooler, is you love living books, and so you have to do all of the read alouds. You need to have several going at once, and you need to be outside for 3 hours and doing nature journaling and, you know, tracking the life of a tree and things like that. That isn't necessarily going to fit into your ideal for your homeschool. And that doesn't mean that you're a bad homeschool mom. I hate nature studies. there, I said it. I just don't enjoy them. My kids go outside and play, and that's fine, but we're not going to go and study all of these things just because we don't enjoy that. My kids like to go outside and they like to play. And whenever we find something that's interesting, we'll look it up. If they have questions, we'll go into that. But going super in depth into nature studies is just not our thing. My kids actually enjoy actual science, which I know nature studies is actual science, but the books and talking about astronomy and talking about biology and the actual science curriculum, my kids actually enjoy that. So I'm okay with us not doing nature studies. And as a general rule, we have 2 read alouds going normally. We will have a history read aloud that goes with our curriculum that's recommended in our curriculum. And then we will also have a fun read aloud. And those are the only read alouds that we do besides reading for school, obviously. I mean, we have our history book and our science book and our Bible and things like that. But as far as read alouds go, we have 2 going. That's it. And I'm perfectly happy with that. Number 4, you do not need a $60 planner. I don't know if it's just me, but planner prices have gotten outrageous. And honestly, I don't see a huge difference between the Erin Condren fancy planners and like an Amazon planner, or even if you want to get fancy, the Mardell planners, which are like half the price. Those are pretty nice and they do a very good job. And it just doesn't seem like it's worth it to me. Now, if you love your planners and it's something that you can afford and it's not going to bankrupt your family, like it would bankrupt mine if I went into all of the planning things, then by all means. But you do not need a $60 planner if you cannot afford it. For the past 9 years, I have gotten by with just a $10, $15 Amazon planner that did a very good job. This year, I decided to make my own. And so I printed it and I put it into a flex binder. If you've been around my channel, you have seen my planner. And it works very, very well. And it cost me, with the exception of buying the binder, it cost me the cost to print it. That has worked actually much better for me than any other planner I've ever used because I customized it to myself. By the way, if you are new here and you would like this planner, I always have it linked for free in the description box. So you can download it there. But you do not need a $60 planner if you do not want to or cannot afford it. It does not make you a bad homeschool mom if you just print your own. Number 5. Expensive co-ops. You do not have to be a part of these crazy expensive co-ops. It is insane to me how much these things cost. I understand. They have to pay for all of the materials. They have to pay for the location. Like there's things and expenses that have to get paid for. But if you can't afford a co-op, don't feel like you have to be a part of a co-op. We have never been a part of a co-op. There are so many free homeschool groups that are on Facebook that has in your local area that you can go meet up with people for free. And then you could even start your own co-op. If you were wanting to have something where you got together with some moms and had classes together, you could join one of those groups, get to know some of those moms, and then start your own co-op that doesn't cost you anything besides the cost of curriculum. You don't have to join into this crazy expensive group in order to feel like you are doing a good job at educating your kids. Number 6, exclusively using living books. Now don't mishear me. We are a classical Charlotte Mason-esque kind of home. We use a lot of living books, but you do not have to exclusively use living books. For example, I happen to use an extremely traditional math and don't use the Charlotte Mason approach or a classical approach to math at all. There are also things that I will use textbooks for, like when my kids get into upper grades. If you happen to like a good old-fashioned worksheet every once in a while, you should feel free to do that, and you can still say that you're a Charlotte Mason homeschooler. I give you that freedom. So you don't have to just adhere strictly to that one style. If you want to pull these beautiful things from Charlotte Mason and use living books a lot of the time, but you happen to enjoy YouTube videos like we do for some of your history extras, that is completely okay. And it doesn't make you a bad homeschool mom to do so. Number 7, all of the enrichment opportunities. There are so many things that you can go do. You could join any kind of sport imaginable. They have drama classes, they have chess clubs, they have swim teams, all of the instruments that you could possibly think to play. There are so many enrichment opportunities for homeschoolers now, but you don't have to do them all or any of them either. You don't have to do any of them in order to give your kids a good education. First of all, it is so expensive. And a lot of times when you're talking about homeschooling, you're talking about taking a pay cut because one of you is going to be staying home in order to homeschool the kids. And so you're already going to have to deal with the ramifications of not having a dual income house. And then you add on all of these expenses for all of these enrichment opportunities. And all of a sudden you start feeling like you need to bring in another income in order to afford the enrichment, in order for you to homeschool well, which is the whole point of you not being working, is so you can be with your kids. And then that just defeats the whole point. Maybe looking into opportunities that are less expensive, or just kind of paring down and not doing everything. And on top of just the expense part of it, it's also extremely time consuming. And if you add too many enrichment opportunities, you deprive your kids of the opportunity to, one, do their school, because you can't do all of your schoolwork in the amount of time that you're allotting if you're constantly going here, there, and wherever. But then also you are just not giving them time to be kids and just have unstructured play, which is so good for children. And having that time to be outside and have play and time that is not organized by adults and they get to use their imagination and be children, it is so vital for kids. And then you are also adding on this problem of you're dividing your family. Your family is not going to be together quite as much, because if you have soccer Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then another kid has, tap, ballet, whatever, also Monday, Wednesday, Friday, then you have two parents that are going to be separated and having to go to those events. But the time that you have as a family unit, whenever your spouse is home, you're not going to be able to fully enjoy all of that time as a family. And that could end up being problematic as well. Number 8 is a little controversial. You do not have to have a 5 a.m. wake up time and 2 hours of prep before you start school. Is 2 hours before your kids are starting school and you having that time with the Lord and you get to really wake up and enjoy your morning, is that magical? Yes. Is it always feasible? No. There is this illusion whenever you get onto YouTube and you see my morning routine as a homeschool mom, and everything is very softly lit and there's a candle burning and she comes on to the screen and she is all bundled up in her blanket with her Bible, and then she gets cozy on the couch with her Bible open, and it's just, you can feel it. It feels calm and it feels like, oh, what a beautiful, relaxing way to wake up in the morning. That was never my reality. That still is not my reality. And my kids are a little bit older. Now, some of that's self-inflicted. But when my kids were younger, my reality was I had kids that were early birds. And so I could not get up early because I had a baby that was waking up in the middle of the night. And then I had kids who were also up at 6 o'clock in the morning. And so my reality was sitting in the recliner with 2 toddlers in my lap as I tried to read my Bible. And that's probably some of your realities too. It's life with kids. And so maybe your morning doesn't look like that. You can still homeschool. The Lord gives us the strength we need to do all that He's called us to. And if He's called you to homeschool, you don't have to have 2 hours alone with Him in the morning. Is that amazing if you can? Absolutely. But a lot of times whenever you're dealing with a lot of kids and you're homeschooling, it's not practical for a lot of us. And so maybe your morning time looks like 15 minutes of making a cup of coffee and sitting down and reading, a couple of chapters in your Bible before the kids get up. That's completely fine, and the Lord will sustain you through it. And you will learn so much in that season than you ever would if you had that block of time. God refines us in the fire, and motherhood is a huge time of refining, especially when you're dealing with little kids and sleep deprivation and all of that. And last one, number 9, you do not have to have themed afternoon tea and poetry time every single day or ever at all. I always had a little bit of a giggle because that always looked so appealing to me. And I'm like, oh, how beautiful would that be to have that every afternoon? But I am not that mom. I am not that organized, nor do I think that would go very well with my children. They would enjoy it, but I think it would last for like 10 minutes before they would want to go off and play. And so it would not be sustainable for our homeschool. If that works for you and you are an afternoon tea and poetry kind of a mom, that is fantastic, and you continue to rock it. That's just not feasible for me. And it's not realistic for a lot of us moms, I think. I feel like this goes into a lot of homemaking stuff in general on especially Instagram, even here on YouTube, where, they are making their sourdough and you see them putting the bread in the oven as they are reading aloud to their children at the same time, and they're bouncing back and forth, and everything is very soft and it's very curated looking. For a lot of us, that's not really how we are as people. That doesn't really, I'm quite boisterous. If you haven't, I'm very bubbly, if you haven't noticed already. And so that is just kind of not my MO as a person. And so I stopped trying to fit myself into that mold. Honestly, for homeschooling and for homemaking, do not feel pressured to fit into the linen dress if it feels stifling. If it doesn't fit you and that's not true to who you are as a person or your family dynamic, you don't have to be this kind of a way or any kind of a way in order to be a good homeschool mom, or even be just a good homemaker, or even just be a good mom and wife. And that kind of flows into my last encouragement that I want to put out there. Your homeschool is as unique as your children and your individual family. So stop trying to fit it into a mold. I don't know if you are, but I have been guilty of this, of trying to say, oh, we are a classical homeschool. We are a Charlotte Mason homeschool. Trying to pick one particular thing, or this is the way we do it. This is the way we choose to homeschool, and making it your entire identity. You don't have to fit into one particular mold. You have unique children. One of the things that I love about Charlotte Mason is that she encouraged us to view children as persons. Well, I think if you're going to view children as persons, you also have to acknowledge that they are different, and maybe the Charlotte Mason approach might not work for that child. Maybe you have a kid who loves worksheets, and so you want to throw them a worksheet. I have a particular child who does a lot better with video lessons than he ever does with book lessons, and so a lot of his curriculum I do video based. That's perfectly okay. The big thing is to make sure that you are respecting your family for who they are and your children for who they are. We homeschool so that way we can tailor their education to who they are as people. At least for most people that I've talked to, they don't want to send their kids to school most of the time because they want to individualize their education to their children, because they believe that they can have a better education if they are looking at that one person and not a group of people. And so if we are going to say that as moms, as at-home educators, then I think that we need to keep that in mind whenever we are trying to make decisions for our style of homeschooling, and maybe not try to generalize it so much and start individualizing it a little bit more. So those are all of my points, and I'm curious if I've de-influenced you on some of them, or some of them surprising to you. Is there anything that you resonate with? And I would love to know, what is one homeschool quote unquote must have, or that someone has encouraged you, you really need to do this, that you've skipped, and was it still fine? So if you have one, drop it in the comments because we would all love to know. So if this video was an encouragement to you, be sure to give it a like, and I would love it if you would stick around and subscribe. And with all that being said, I hope you have a fantastic week, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.